Whatever their fear was at the time, but no, I didn't go nowhere. My dad never really had anything that you could call religion, you know. Johnny Depp showed up to a Hollywood event last week and nobody recognized him. The man who played Jack Sparrow for 20 years looked completely different. From 230 pounds to 130, he'd almost lost half his body weight. And it is not because of a good diet or exercise. Hollywood insiders are whispering about what really happened during those missing months. Some say it saved his life. Others worry it's destroying him. The truth about his transformation is more extreme than the rumors. Johnny Depp was born on June 9, 1963, in Owensboro, Kentucky. He was the youngest of 4 children. His father, John Christopher Depp, was a civil engineer. His mother, Betty Sue Palmer, was a waitress who later became a homemaker. The family never stayed in one place for long. They moved from house to house all the time, and Johnny hardly ever felt settled. Growing up was hard for Johnny. His mother had a terrible temper. She would throw things at him and his siblings without warning. Johnny learned to hide and brace himself whenever she walked into a room. Even though she was sometimes kind, most days were tense. Johnny's father was gentle and shy, but he couldn't protect his children from Betty Sue's anger. The constant moving only added to the stress. Johnny later said they moved maybe 40 times before he was 15. When he was 7, they moved to Miramar, Florida. The family stayed in a motel for nearly a year, and Johnny felt more alone than ever. Music became his safe place. At 12, his mom gave him a guitar, and Johnny spent hours playing it, using music to escape his troubles. By 12, Johnny was already smoking, drinking, and using drugs. Life at school was miserable too. Other kids bullied him for being strange and different. At home, the tension never let up. Johnny began hurting himself and turning to his mother's nerve pills just to feel calm. Over time, his drug use increased. It was his way of numbing the pain and the loneliness that followed him everywhere. When Johnny was 15, his parents finally divorced. The split shattered him. His mother fell into a deep depression, and he had to go to his father's office each week to pick up child support checks. It felt humiliating. He was also left to take care of his mom and siblings. Even school couldn't help him anymore. By 16, he decided to leave Miramar High School and chase his dream of being a musician. When he tried to come back after 2 weeks, the principal told him to go follow his dream instead. That was all Johnny needed to hear. He started playing in a band called The Kids. They had almost no money and would often sleep in a friend's 1967 Chevy Impala. They played every gig they could get, and even opened for big names like Talking Heads, the B-52s, and Iggy Pop. Despite the exciting shows, they were always broke. Johnny and the band did what they could to keep going, even modeling for local papers to make extra cash. In December 1983, Johnny and the band left Florida for Los Angeles. They renamed themselves Six Gun Method and hoped for a record deal. Life was even harder there. The band shared tiny apartments, slept on floors, and Johnny took a job selling ballpoint pens just to pay the bills. The music scene was tough, and they never did get a record contract. That same year, Johnny married Lori Ann Allison, a makeup artist who was also the sister of the band's bassist. Lori supported him through all the struggle. They had little money, but she had connections that would change his life forever. Through Lori, Depp met Nicolas Cage, who was already making a name for himself with films like Valley Girl and Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Cage and Depp quickly became friends. They would hang out in Cage's apartment playing Monopoly and talking about movies. One day, Cage looked at Depp and asked, "Why don't you try acting?" Depp laughed it off. "I can't act," he said. But Cage kept pushing him. "Maybe you are one and don't know it," Cage replied. That simple suggestion was the spark that changed everything. Cage introduced Depp to his agent Eileen Feldman, who sent him on his first audition. Depp never thought of acting as a career. Later, during a trial, decades later, Depp said, "I didn't have any desire to be an actor. I was a musician, but they were going to pay me $284 a week. I'd never seen that kind of money. And so because of Laurie's connection to Cage and Cage's belief in him, Depp found himself sitting in front of Wes Craven to read for a part. That part was Glenn Lance in A Nightmare on Elm Street. Depp only went to the audition to support a friend who wanted the role. Depp had never acted before. Craven wasn't interested at first. He thought Depp didn't look like an actor. But when Craven's teenage daughter saw Depp's headshot, she told her dad he was dreamy, exactly what they needed for Glenn. Craven took a chance and gave Depp the part. The role paid $1,284 a week more than Depp had ever earned. It was his first film. It had a tiny budget of $1.8 million, but it ended up making over $57 million worldwide and becoming a horror classic. Depp's death scene as Glenn being sucked into his bed and then exploding into a geyser of blood became legendary. It was one of the most shocking deaths in horror history and one of the most difficult scenes to film. To shoot it, the crew built a rotating set that created the illusion of blood spraying up to the ceiling. 500 gallons of fake blood was dumped into the set. When it hit the lights, sparks flew. The room spun out of control. It was dangerous, messy, and unforgettable. That single scene changed Depp's career forever. Audiences loved it, and suddenly Hollywood was paying attention. In his personal life, things were more complicated. Depp and Laurie Ann Allison had married in December 1983, but by 1985, they were already divorced. Even though they split after only 2 years, Laurie never stopped supporting him. She had introduced him to Nicolas Cage and set up his first audition. Depp always acknowledged that his career began because of her. Even after Elm Street, Depp wasn't sure acting was for him. He kept playing guitar and hoped to make it in music. He took small roles just to pay rent, appearing in Private Resort and as a minor character in Platoon. But in 1987, he was cast as Tom Hansen on 21, Quarant Jump Street, and suddenly he was a teen idol. It was the role that took him from unknown to overnight sensation, but the path there wasn't simple. Producers had first picked Jeff Yeager for the part, but after they filmed the pilot, they weren't satisfied. They needed someone who could make audiences believe in the character. Depp was not their first choice, and Depp himself wasn't sure he wanted to do television. At first, he wouldn't even read the script. The thought of being trapped in a long-term TV contract scared him. Still, they convinced him to do the pilot, and as soon as the cameras rolled, his presence was electric. The show followed undercover cops going into high schools, and the idea hit a nerve with teenage viewers. Almost overnight, 21. Jump Street became Fox's first big hit, and Depp's face was everywhere. Every week, millions tuned in. Magazines plastered him on their covers. Letters from fans arrived by the truckload. It was a dizzying kind of thing, and it happened fast. But behind the scenes, Depp was exhausted. The schedule was grueling. 15-hour days left him drained. The public thought they knew him as Hansen, the serious, brooding cop, but Depp felt like a stranger to himself. The role began to feel like a prison. By the time he had filmed 102 episodes across 4 seasons, Depp was miserable. The attention never let up and expectations never stopped. Producers had him do public service spots telling kids to stay in school. Depp hated the hypocrisy of this, especially since he had dropped out of school himself. Refusing to participate was one of the small ways he pushed back. More and more, Depp felt disappointed by what the show was really saying. To him, the idea of undercover police in schools felt wrong, almost like a kind of propaganda. On top of that, many scripts handled serious subjects like racism and violence in shallow ways that Depp could not stand behind. He began refusing to do episodes that clashed with his beliefs, turning down $45,000 per episode, a fortune at the time, because his conscience told him he couldn't take part. As his frustration grew, Depp started to rebel on set. He would make up lines or suggest ridiculous plots just to make the work less boring. Off-screen, his personal life suffered too. His relationship with actress Sherilyn Fenn fell apart. and he felt more trapped than ever. By the end of his contract, he was outspoken. In one interview, he told the Los Angeles Times that he would never do TV again. Never, he said. I'd rather pump gas. There's not enough money in Los Angeles. Depp called himself a puppet. Even though the show had helped him become famous, he had no interest in playing that part anymore. He was so determined to leave that he even trashed his trailer, hoping Fox would fire him. But they needed him too much. Only after Tim Burton offered him the lead in Edward Scissorhands was Depp finally released at the end of the 4th season. His decision to quit was bold. The show was still wildly popular, and his face was its biggest draw. Walking away from that kind of success was risky, but Depp felt it was the only way to save himself. And it was the right move. Almost immediately, he was working with top directors like Tim Burton and John Waters, showing audiences there was much more to him than a teen heartthrob. Meanwhile, 21 Jump Street carried on without him for a 5th season, but it didn't last. Ratings crashed. The series was canceled soon after proving what everyone already knew. Without Johnny Depp, it just wasn't the same. When Edward Scissorhands came out on December 14th, 1990, it was more than just a movie. It was the start of one of Hollywood's most famous partnerships. Tim Burton had just made Batman in 1989 and was at a high point in his career. But this new film was different. It was personal, strange, and full of heart. Burton felt an instant bond with Johnny Depp, who was best known for the TV series 21 Jump Street. Burton would later say that Depp was like him, someone who had grown up feeling like an outsider. Depp was tired of playing a teen idol. The role of Edward Scissorhands was exactly what he wanted. Edward was gentle and shy with scissors for hands. Depp beat out big names like Tom Hanks, Tom Cruise, and even Michael Jackson for the part. The writing was beautiful, Depp said. The character was beautiful. Edward was me. The story had a deep personal meaning for him. Burton had written Edward Scissorhands as a kind of dark fairy tale. The story was inspired by his own childhood in suburban Burbank. Carolyn Thompson wrote the script, and Danny Elfman created the haunting music. The film cost $20 million to make and went on to earn more than 4 times that amount. It won a BAFTA award for Best Production Design and was nominated for Oscars and Saturn Awards. Depp earned his first Golden Globe nomination, and people began to see him as a serious actor. The role changed everything. Still, Depp was scared during the shoot. He felt nervous, as if he could be fired at any moment. Burton would rehearse with everyone except him, and Depp thought this meant he was doing a bad job. The heavy scissor hands made every move awkward, and Edward barely spoke, so Depp had to use his face and body to tell the story. Depp was full of self-doubt. I actually doubted my own abilities, he said later. But Edward Scissorhands proved he was more than a pretty face. His gentle, quiet performance showed a depth that had never been seen before. Hollywood took notice. Critics called his work subtle and powerful. Audiences loved the strange romance, the satire of suburbia, and the sad beauty of the character. That success was just the start. In 1994, Depp and Burton teamed up again for Ed Wood, a black-and-white tribute to a terrible filmmaker who loved making movies. Depp played Wood with a mix of humor and sincerity, and the film won 2 Oscars, including one for Martin Landau as Bela Lugosi. Many call Ed Wood one of Burton's best. By 1999, Depp and Burton were working together once more on Sleepy Hollow. Released on November 19, 1999, it was a spooky take on the famous story of Ichabod Crane. Depp played Crane as a nervous but clever detective. The film earned $207 million and won an Oscar for its creepy sets. Depp was praised for his mix of comedy and fear, showing once again that he liked taking risks. When Pirates of the Caribbean: The Curse of the Black Pearl hit theaters in July 2003, nobody knew what was coming. Disney had taken a big risk. The pirate genre was thought to be dead. The last big pirate movie, Cutthroat Island, 1995, had failed so badly that most people expected this one to sink too. But what happened next took everyone by surprise. In its opening weekend, The Curse of the Black Pearl made $46.6 million in the US. It shattered Disney's July box office records. Around the world, it earned $654 million, making it the fourth highest-grossing movie of 2003. Suddenly, Johnny Depp was a superstar, and his character Captain Jack Sparrow was everywhere. Jack Sparrow was different. Most pirates on screen before him were mean or heroic. Sparrow was unpredictable, charming drunk, and often very funny. Disney bosses were worried about Depp's strange choices. They thought his weird speech and mannerisms would ruin the movie, but audiences loved him. Critics loved him too. Depp even got nominated for an Oscar for Best Actor. That was unheard of for a summer adventure film. People dressed up as Jack Sparrow for Halloween. They quoted his funny lines. Disney made more movies. In total, the 5 Pirates of the Caribbean films earned over $4.5 billion. Depp went from a respected character actor to one of the most famous and highest-paid actors in the world. By 2012, Guinness World Records listed him as the world's highest-paid actor. Jack Sparrow had changed everything for him. What made the character so special was Depp's strange inspiration. He looked to Keith Richards, the Rolling Stones guitarist, for Sparrow's rock star attitude. Depp thought pirates were like rock stars, wild and rebellious. Depp even convinced Richards to play Jack Sparrow's father in the sequels. Then he added another surprise influence. He borrowed from Pepe Le Pew, the cartoon skunk, who thought he was a great ladies' man. That's why Sparrow walks and talks like someone who thinks he's the most charming person in the room, even when he's not. This mix of swagger and clueless confidence created a one-of-a-kind character. Jack Sparrow was always sure of himself, even when everything was going wrong. Depp once said that Sparrow could run between the raindrops, always surviving by luck. Fans loved this unpredictable style. It felt new and exciting. It became one of the most iconic roles of modern cinema, and the money kept rolling in. The first movie cost $140 million to make and earned $654 million. The second, Dead Man's Chest, 2006, had a budget of $225 million and earned over $1.07 billion, the most of any film that year. Even the least successful film in the series, Dead Men Tell No Tales, 2017, still pulled in $794 million worldwide. The total cost to make all 5 movies was around $1.27 billion. Their total box office was $4.5 billion. That's huge by any standard. Depp's earnings kept rising too. On the first film, he made $10 million. By the 5th one, he was making $90 million per film. Across all 5 movies, he earned about $265 million. Even Depp himself joked that he was probably paid too much. Disney also made a fortune on toys, video games, theme park rides, and more. At the same time Depp was making these movies, he was also working with Tim Burton. They had already built a long creative partnership. In 2005, they made Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, which earned $474 million worldwide. Depp's strange, mysterious Willy Wonka was a hit with audiences. Then came Alice in Wonderland in 2010. That one earned over $1 billion worldwide. Depp was everywhere at once in fantasy worlds and on the high seas, and people kept going to see him. He also took more serious roles that won him awards. In 2004, he was nominated for an Oscar for playing the gentle playwright J.M. Barrie in Finding Neverland. Then in 2008, he earned another Oscar nomination for playing the dark, vengeful barber in Sweeney Todd, the demon barber of Fleet Street. Depp was able to jump between big blockbusters and serious dramas like very few actors can. By the end of this period, Depp had done something rare in Hollywood. He was making movies that earned huge amounts of money and also earning the respect of critics. From 2003 to 2010, he was nominated for 3 Best Actor Oscars, 1 for Jack Sparrow, 1 for Barry, and 1 for Sweeney Todd. It was surprising to see someone so successful at the box office also be a favorite during awards season. Johnny Depp and Amber Heard's romance was never simple. They met in 2009 on the set of The Rum Diary and began dating around late 2011. Depp, who was born on June 9, 1963, was 22 years older than Heard. Despite their different worlds, they moved quickly. They got engaged in January 2014 and married on February 3, 2015, in a small civil ceremony at Depp's Los Angeles home. A few days later, they celebrated at Depp's private island in the Bahamas. Guests enjoyed snorkeling beach parties and gourmet meals. On the surface, it all looked perfect. But behind the scenes, things were already tense. Depp had just ended a long-term relationship with Vanessa Paradis, the mother of his 2 kids. Heard was a rising star. Some people thought they were rushing into a serious commitment too fast. That tension soon became public. After only 15 months, Heard filed for divorce on May 23, 2016, citing irreconcilable differences. The media went into a frenzy. Heard requested $50,000 a month in spousal support. The court denied it, and the divorce was finalized in January 2017. Depp agreed to pay her $7 million, which she promised to donate to charity. Later reports showed less than half of that money ever reached the charities. Heard also got a restraining order. She accused Depp of physical abuse, filing photos of herself with bruises. Police officers who responded to the incident denied seeing evidence of a crime, and Depp's team called the accusations false. Still, the damage was done. The allegations exploded across headlines and sparked a bitter debate. Public interest in their fight kept going. Heard spoke of alleged patterns of abuse. Depp denied all of it and fought back in court. Even their former therapist, Dr. Laurel Anderson, described their fights as mutual abuse. What looked like a glamorous Hollywood marriage had turned into one of its most public toxic feuds. Depp had long struggled with drugs and alcohol. Even before his time with Heard, he was often late to set and accused of unpredictable behavior. Rumors of heavy drinking and pill use followed him, especially after their breakup. Depp admitted he'd struggled with substances like benzodiazepines and opioids. Friends and co-workers described an erratic man. His career took a hit as studios grew nervous about his personal troubles. By December 2018, Heard wrote an op-ed in the Washington Post. She never named Depp, but everyone knew who she meant. She called herself a public figure who had survived abuse. Almost overnight, Depp became a pariah in Hollywood. Disney fired him from Pirates of the Caribbean, even though the franchise had made over $4.5 billion worldwide and earned him over $300 million. Depp learned about his firing in the press, not from Disney itself. He also lost his role as Grindelwald in Warner Brothers' Fantastic Beasts series. The studio asked him to resign after he lost a libel case against The Sun in the UK in 2020. Even though he had only filmed 1 scene for the 3rd movie, he still received his full 8-figure salary. But the damage was far worse than money. Depp was pushed further to the margins of Hollywood. In 2019, Depp fought back. He sued Heard for $50 million in the United States for defamation, saying her op-ed had ruined his career. Heard responded with her own $100 million counterclaim. The trial took place in April 2022 and became one of the most watched celebrity trials in history. Cameras broadcast every second, and millions followed along on social media. Every detail of their toxic relationship was exposed, from drunken fights to shocking photos. On June 1, 2022, after 6 weeks of testimony, a jury sided mostly with Depp. They decided Heard had lied. They awarded Depp $10 million in compensatory damages and $5 million in punitive damages, which was reduced to $350,000 under state law. Heard was also given $2 million for one of her claims. Depp celebrated his win as proof that he was telling the truth. Between 2020 and 2024, Johnny Depp changed his life in a way nobody expected. In just 1 year, he lost 100 pounds. He went from 230 pounds to under 30 pounds. It shocked everyone who followed him. But this wasn't just a quick diet. It was a whole new lifestyle. Depp cleaned up his meals and focused on healthy food. He ate whole foods like vegetables, fruits, lean protein, and healthy fats. He also cut out processed sugar and junk food. Nutritionists and chefs worked with him every day. They made sure each meal kept him strong and satisfied. And that was only part of it. Depp also exercised every day. He did strength training and practiced yoga. The workouts made him feel strong again. But what truly changed him was how he cared for his mental health. Depp had gone through years of stress and public battles. In this period, he found meditation and therapy. Talking to someone and making time for himself kept him grounded. Depp later said it saved his life. In 2024, he had another surprise for everyone. For a new movie called Day Drinker, Depp changed his style completely. He dyed his hair silver and grew a full gray beard. Then he added icy blue contacts. The look was so different that fans had to do a double take. Even people who followed him for years thought they were looking at someone else. This silver fox look fit the character perfectly. It was brave and bold. Depp worked with top stylists to create this image. Every detail was planned. Critics called the change haunting and hypnotic. On set, people whispered about how serious he was about this role. When photos hit the internet, the reaction was instant. Social media exploded, with comments calling him unrecognizable. Fashion magazines wrote entire pieces praising the change. Fans even began asking their own barbers and stylists for silver hair and beards. Depp spent months preparing for the part. He studied his character's voice and habits. This deep commitment left a strong impression on everyone. And then there was his smile. Fans had long joked about Depp's teeth. But in 2024, he showed up with a perfect set of white, straight teeth. The change was so big that it went viral. Some even thought the photos were fake at first. Dentists suggested the work probably took months and cost a fortune. Depp never talked much about the process, but fans could see how much more confident he looked. That new smile became a symbol of his return. Even entertainment outlets couldn't stop talking about it. Photos showed him grinning at events and laughing in interviews. The joy looked real. Many people felt inspired. Some even booked their own dentist appointments after seeing Depp's results. And as if all that weren't enough, Depp's career was also back on track. In 2024, the famous director Terry Gilliam chose him for the lead role in Day Drinker, alongside Penelope Cruz. Rumors began spreading that Depp was also cast as Satan in Gilliam's next big project, Carnival, at the End of Days, set for 2025. These roles weren't small. They proved that Hollywood was ready to embrace him again. Industry experts called it one of the most surprising comebacks of the decade. The news filled entertainment websites and newspapers. Everyone wanted to talk about Depp's return. In interviews during late 2024 and early 2025, Depp spoke honestly about what had happened. Talking to Rolling Stone and Esquire, he admitted that many people had walked away when things were hard. "I've been surrounded by fake motherfuckers who abandoned me," he told one reporter. Depp didn't hide his anger or sadness, but he also talked about what that pain had taught him. He said losing those people forced him to grow stronger. It helped him focus on the few who truly cared. "That experience made me more determined to rebuild my life," he told an interviewer. Depp's words spread everywhere. People quoted him online. He kept returning to one idea: resilience. "Resilience is not just a word," he said. "It's a way of life for me now." Fans responded warmly. Many who had followed his struggles felt hopeful for him. Others admired his honesty,